Novation, the last mode of extinguishing an obligation. Article 1291 provides for the different kinds of novation. So we have two kinds of novation. We have the objective or real novation, and we have the subjective or personal novation. So what is novation then? Novation class is the total or the partial extinction of an obligation through the creation of a new one which substitutes it. So there is an existing obligation and there is a new obligation. So the new obligation here substitutes the old obligation or the previous obligation. And such substitution class, mao to ang nakapa-novate, mao to ang nakapa-extinguish sa previous or the old obligation. So the old obligation has been extinguished and there is a creation of a new obligation. Okay, so it is the substitution or change of an obligation by another, which extinguishes or modifies the first, either by changing its object or principal conditions, or by substituting another in place of the debtor, or by subrogating a third person in the rights of the creditor. Okay, so that is what we mean by novation. Okay, so the two kinds, we have the objective and the subjective. Under the objective or the real novation, we have here the changing of the object or the principal conditions. Under the subjective or personal, we have two. We have the passive novation and the active novation. Passive novation pertains to the substitution, no, of the person of the debtor. And the active novation pertains to the subrogation of a third person in the rights of the creditor. Okay, when we say real novation or objective novation, for example, so there is a change in the object or the principal conditions, no? Like S agreed to deliver to B a car. So later, the two of them, S and B, entered into another contract whereby instead of S delivering a car to B, S would now deliver 10 air conditioners. So the obligation here to deliver the car is extinguished by the obligation to deliver the 10 air conditioners. So there is a change in the object or subject matter, no, of the obligation. So the change here, again in real novation, may involve the principal terms of the obligation. So it may involve the change of an object or the principal conditions. How about subjective or personal novation? Substituting the person of the debtor and subrogating a third person in the rights of the creditor. So let's say if after the constitution of the obligation, both parties agreed, C, S and CB, they agreed that C will substitute for S, or that D will be subrogated in the rights of B. So here there is personal novation. In this case, C becomes the new debtor, or D now is the new creditor, as the case may be. Requisites of extinctive novation. We have four. First, the existence of a previous valid obligation. So when we say novation, we are changing the obligation, the creditor, the debtor. So essentially there is another obligation, but the old one is extinguished. So in order for a valid novation to take place, there must be a previous valid obligation. Because if the previous obligation is void, meaning not valid, then there is nothing to novate. Okay? Next, number two, the agreement of all the parties to the new contract, of course. All the parties, the debtor and the creditor, and if there should be new debtor and new creditor, still their consent, no, are very material, very important to have a valid or to effect a valid novation. Then the extinguishment of the old obligation or contract. So meaning entering into a new obligation will mean the extinguishment of the old obligation in order for there to be novation. So since if the old and the new one are meant to stand together at the same time, then there can be no novation. Number 4, the validity of the new one. Of course, so we are talking about here the validity of a new obligation, and also katong sa number 1, no, existence of a previous valid obligation. So both obligations here must be valid, the previous one and the new one. Okay, so there are two types of novation class, express or implied. So express meaning there is really a statement in the new obligation that it supersedes, that it extinguishes the old one. Okay, so mo nang express. And if there is an express statement as to that effect, then there is no problem. But what if it is implied? Kasi pwede man put implied ang novation. There is no such statements as to the extinguishment of the old obligation, but the new obligation class cannot coexist with the terms of the old one. So the conclusion is that the new one must have superseded the old obligation. Okay? So again, sa implied, there is no such statements, but the new obligation here cannot coexist with the terms of the old obligation. That's why there's a presumption, there's a conclusion that the new obligation must have superseded the old obligation. So in case of doubt class, if the problem is silent, then novation is never presumed. Remember this, novation is never presumed. There is no novation. Again, there must be irreconcilable incompatibility between the two obligations para naatay ginatawag nga novation. In general, there are two modes of substituting the person of the debtor. So we have expromission and we have delegation. Okay. In expromission class, the initiative for the change does not come from and may even be made without the knowledge of the debtor. Why? Since it consists of a third person's assumption of the obligation. As such, it logically requires the consent of the third person and the creditor. So, what is the rule when it comes to expromission? You remember Article 1236? Whoever pays for another may demand from the debtor what he has paid, except that if he paid without the knowledge or against the will of the debtor, he can recover only insofar as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. So again, remember Article 1236, because even if it is a provision under payment, it can also be a case of expromission, a case of a passive subjective novation. So here, when is there a change in the person of the debtor? When the third person paid. Okay? Article 1236. Next, we have delegation. Here, the debtor offers and the creditor accepts. And we have here a third person who consents to the substitution and assumes the obligation. Thus, the consent of these three persons are necessary. Here, there must be consent of the old debtor because he was the one who initiated the change. There must be consent of the new debtor and the creditor also. So, all of them must consent. This is compared to expromission where only the consent of the third person and the creditor are required. But class, in both modes of substitution by the debtor, okay, it requires the consent of the creditor. Active subjective novation. So this requires the consent of all the parties, the debtor, the old creditor, and the new creditor. Okay, so when you say active subject, we are referring to the creditor. So there is a change in the person of the creditor. Article 1300 provides that subrogation of a third person in the rights of the creditor is either legal or conventional. The former is not presumed except in cases expressly mentioned in this code, and the latter must be clearly established in order that it may take effect. Okay, so we have here two kinds of active subjective novation: conventional subrogation and legal subrogation. So conventional subrogation, the legal basis is Article 1301. It says that conventional subrogation of a third person requires the consent of the original parties and of the third person. Okay, then we have legal subrogation. That's Article 1302. So we will discuss each of them. We will start with legal subrogation first. So again, class, in active subjective novation, there is a change in the person of the creditor. Okay, so let's go to legal subrogation. Article 1302. So it is presumed that there is legal subrogation in these three instances. Okay, so let's start with the first one. When a creditor pays another creditor who is preferred even without the debtor's knowledge. So let's say, for example, we have two creditors, A and B, and we have the debtor, si C. Okay, si C na utang kay A worth 5 million, and there is a collateral. Now, there's a mortgage constituted to secure the debt. So, ang house and lot ay collateral ni C kay A for the loan worth 5 million pesos. Si B, the second creditor, ang collectible po niya kay C, nangutang man po si C kay B, let's say 10 million pesos, but without a mortgage. So meaning, unsecured. Ang utang ni C kay A secured, 5 million pesos with collateral, a mortgage constituted to secure the debt, and kay B, ang utang ni C is 10 million but without a mortgage or collateral, so it is unsecured. So in the order of things, mas nakalamang si A although 5 million lang iyang loan. Why? Because of the mortgage. Because whatever happens, kung dili makabayad si C kay A can foreclose the mortgage. So he is a preferred creditor, si A. In case the debtor becomes insolvent, he can move on to the property mortgage. Dili jud siya ma-zero. However, B, the loan kay B ni C is 10 million. And the 10 million here is not secured with a mortgage. So for example, C, the debtor, becomes insolvent. B cannot even insist in going after the property mortgage. Maghulat si B because B here is a non-preferred creditor. Maghulat na lang siya while all the other preferred creditors are paid. So here, if B will pay the debt of C to A, he can pay. And as long as A agrees to accept the payment, then that is valid. Because again, in all kinds of novation, whether there is a change in the person of the debtor or change in the person of the creditor, we need the consent of the creditor. So, nisugot si A na bayaran ni B ang utang. Then what happens now? B is subrogated to the rights of A. Karon si C, katong debtor, na siya'y utang kay B na 10 million. Itong original, diba? Plus the 5 million gikan sa iyang utang kay A, which nasubrogate na si B. In case the debtor could not pay well, at least si B can foreclose on the mortgage. This is usually what happens, especially kung dako kayo ang value ng property. So at least B is subrogated to the rights of the preferred creditor. So na ay legal subrogation here. Okay, so his right is not merely to demand reimbursement of the 5 million from the debtor, but he can also foreclose on the mortgage because he is subrogated to the rights of the preferred creditor, who is A. Second, when a third person not interested in the obligation pays with the express or tacit approval of the debtor. Take note ha, number 2, it is enumerated under legal subrogation. So change in the person of the creditor, but actually, the legal consequence here is the same as in delegation. When you say delegation, diba, a third person is introduced by the debtor to the creditor. So that is with the consent of all the parties. So ang delegation actually, ang effect po niya is the same as legal subrogation number 2, the second one. So that the third person is subrogated to the rights of the old creditor. Sa expromission, we say the new debtor has all the rights of the creditor because the new debtor, if there is a mortgage constituted on the debt, aside from asking for reimbursement of the amount he paid for the debt of the debtor, he can exercise likewise the foreclosure of the mortgage, the penalty, the guarantee, and exercise all rights pertaining to those accessory contracts. So now when we say legal subrogation under number 2, the new creditor is subrogated to all the rights of the old creditor. So ang new creditor can seek payment from the debtor of the debt as well as exercise all of the rights of the old creditor. So diha na pud nagmatter ang delegasyon. Gitawag nato siya na new debtor, pero in legal subrogation under number 2, gitawag nato siya na new creditor. But their rights are the same. How about number 3? Even without the knowledge of the debtor, a person interested in the fulfillment of the obligation pays without prejudice to the effects of confusion as to the latter's share. Okay, ang distinction sa number 3 from number 2 is that in number 2, this person is not interested in the obligation, but he pays with the express or tacit approval of the debtor. However, in number 3, even without the approval of the debtor, but this person is interested in the payment of the obligation. So there is also subrogation there. For example, a guarantor. Okay? A borrowed 10 million from B and G is the guarantor. What happens in a guarantee? Diba? A contract of guarantee. If A, the debtor, fails to pay B after observing the benefits of exclusion, B, the creditor, can go against the guarantor. So, in case of failure to pay ni debtor kay creditor, ang singilon ni creditor class si guarantor, mo ng contract of guarantee. So here the guarantor is the person interested in the fulfillment of the obligation. If the guarantor pays the creditor, so the guarantor is subrogated to the rights of the creditor, even if the payment is without the knowledge of the debtor, without prejudice, of course, to the effects of confusion as to the latter's share. Of course, when the guarantor pays the debt of the debtor, although the debt is still existing because there is just a change in the person of the creditor, but the guarantee is already extinguished because the guarantor is also now the new creditor. So the difference of this number 3 also when it comes to expromission is that in expromission class, the third person pays also without the knowledge of the debtor or even against the will of the debtor. But the third person in expromission is not interested in the fulfillment of the obligation. That is why he is not entitled to subrogation. He is just entitled to beneficial reimbursement. Remember Article 1236. Okay, so again, these are the kinds of subrogation under legal subrogation. Conventional subrogation is mentioned in Article 1301. Okay, it says conventional subrogation of a third person requires the consent of the original parties and the other third person. So here, there is really an agreement for subrogation. And what are the rights that can be exercised by the new creditor? Depending upon their agreement. Sa legal subrogation, all rights of the creditor can be exercised by the new creditor. Here, in conventional subrogation, depende na lang sa ilang sabot, okay? Kung unsa ang, let's say, to what extent ang subrogation. So again, always, okay, go back to the intention of the parties, to the agreement of the parties. Kung unsay nasabutan, maoy sundon, okay? There is really an agreement for subrogation under conventional subrogation. Okay. Article 1303. Subrogation transfers to the person subrogated the credit with all the rights thereto appertaining, either against the debtor or against third persons, be they guarantors or possessors of mortgages, subject to stipulation in a conventional subrogation. So here the effect of legal subrogation is to transfer to the new creditor the credit. and all the rights and actions that could have been exercised by the former creditor either against the debtor or against third persons, be they guarantors or mortgagors. So simply stated, except only for the change in the person of the creditor, here the obligation subsists, okay, in all respects as before novation. So the legal effect, no, the effect of legal subrogation provided in Article 1303 may not be modified by agreement. So the effects of conventional subrogation are governed by the stipulation of the parties.